All right, so thank you for again for being here. This is just an overview of what we're anticipating with the Resource Recovery and Recycling Campus, and then a discussion about the 2080 agreements, our partnership agreements, and what all goes into those and the responsibilities and obligations that are in those agreements. So again, I'm Brian Phillips, Assistant City Manager. I'm joined by Justin Clausen, Public Works Director. So the reason why we're here, next slide, please, is that we're no longer going to be operating a waste to energy facility. We have been doing so since 1975, and there are a variety of reasons for us to move away from that system. The one major reason is the economics of it. It is not a viable system from an economic standpoint to operate any longer. It made a lot of sense 50 years ago when we had to operate the power plant constantly. Today, as we can purchase energy off of the grid for considerably less than what we operate our power plant for, it does not make sense financially. In addition, we have a variety of reliability issues with the power plant operation as a result of waste to energy. The boilers that we operate were originally designed to operate on natural gas and coal. The volume of plastic that's in today's garbage is very corrosive and creates a lot of challenges with the handling of ash and the reliable operation of the boilers. And then in addition, from a regulatory standpoint, we know that in the future, we're not going to be permitted to operate our existing units the same number of hours per year as we do today. And we are therefore planning replacement units to take their place that operate far more efficiently and meet the various emissions requirements. So for those reasons, we are moving away from our system of waste to energy. And that means we have to find a new home for the 52,000 tons per year of municipal solid waste that come through our door. A major challenge with that is we are currently partnered with a landfill partner in Boone County that is a relatively small one. And Boone County has expressed a desire to not take increasing volumes of Story County waste. They would like to preserve the volume that they have available in their landfill for themselves, which is understandable. And in addition, they are limited in the ability to expand. There are environmental covenants in the properties that are adjacent to them. It'd be difficult for them to expand the landfill in a meaningful way. So with those challenges in front of us, that helps set the table for where we are today. I want to give a little bit of a background on how solid waste comprehensive planning works and what we all as government entities are responsible for, whether you know it or not. It's handled through our 2080 agreements and through our partnerships. So under Iowa law, cities and counties have to have a comprehensive plan for waste reduction and disposal. And that includes designating a place where that solid waste is going to go. Next one. So within a comprehensive plan area, the waste has to go to a designated landfill unless it's released to another landfill that will accept it. So there is not necessarily a free market for landfill services. A resident at any one of our communities is not permitted to drive to a landfill that is a landfill other than our designated landfill and deposit their waste there. Under the law, they should be turned away. Likewise, anybody outside of our planning area who shows up at either our facility or the Boone County landfill, should be turned away and sent back to the landfill that is in their designated planning area. So I think that's an important piece of information to understand. Next. So ever since the resource recovery system was created, Story County and the 11 cities within it that have partner through our resource recovery system have agreed through this 2080 agreement that exists to allow Ames to handle these responsibilities. So comprehensive planning requires certain activities to be done. It requires planning and reporting filed with the DNR. It requires certain services to be provided, outlets for household hazardous waste and other materials. It requires these logistical functions to be handled. You all in Story County and your individual communities have given us the responsibility to handle that through the 2080 agreement. Next. As a part of handling that, we charge a per capita fee. The per capita fee is currently $10.50 per person in each of the communities. Ames also pays the per capita fee on the same basis. The 2080 agreements require that all of the communities pay it on the same basis. There is not a differential amount for each community. And that amount is, as I mentioned, is used for these different types of unique disposal functions and obligations that we have. So we have the communities within Story County partnering with Ames through the 2080 agreement. Ames then in turn partners with the Central Iowa Solid Waste Management Agency. That is the solid waste planning area that includes Ames. And it operates the Boone County landfill. That's the landfill that is no longer going to be able to accept our waste after 2027, and we need to find a new home for it. So after 2027, we have an agreement in place now to participate in the West Central Iowa Solid Waste Management Authority, which has a disposal facility at the Carroll County landfill. Any questions about how that works so far? Yes.
One quick question. So the planning area includes Story County, but we don't have any say in the landfill operation at all. That all of the say for the landfill is within the county that borders that it's within.
So the landfill, Boone County landfill isn't managed directly by the Boone County supervisors. It's managed by a separate board that governs the Central Iowa Solid Waste Management Agency. The Board of Supervisors have some enhanced role in that. I don't know exactly how that functions, but they are technically supervised by a board, a separate board that manages them. Similarly with the Carroll County landfill, it is an entity of the West Central Iowa Solid Waste Management Agency. It's not run directly by Carroll County. So even in our agreements with them, with these different agencies, we have no say in how the landfill operation works. We work with them. We try to get things that make sense to both of us, but it's their show and we are a customer of them ultimately.
Okay, so even though we're in their planning area, we're not part of their planning. We're only a customer of theirs.
Correct.
As a county.
Yes.
Okay, and we don't have a seat on their board, or
we do
not available. So how is that board? Do you know how that board's chosen, or is that too far? It's probably too far in the weeds for you to. But and then one other quick question. So you mentioned the 1050 per capita for the city residents in the county. What about the rural residents?
For all residents within the county.
Rural pay it to the.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, we'll go to the next slide. So that was comprehensive planning. Now we get to the disposal side of the equation. Sure, what's going on here? Okay. Okay.
Can you go one more?
Yeah, maybe one more. So as we mentioned, Boone County Landfill is not willing to accept the volume of waste that we are going to present them with in 2027. And so our agreement with them to serve as our planning area ends at that time. And we have arranged for the West Central Iowa Solid Waste Management Agency to handle our waste disposal operations. In addition, our current facility at the Resource Recovery Plant is neither permitted nor set up ideally to serve as a transfer station. It is set up primarily to generate refuse-derived fuel and pull recyclable metals out of the waste stream. It is not a sufficient facility to serve as a waypoint for 52,000 tons of solid waste annually. Therefore, we are working on plans to build a resource recovery and recycling campus that Justin will talk a little bit more about in a moment, where the haulers will, instead of going to resource recovery, they will come to this new campus, they will deposit their solid waste. We will minimally process it in order to remove anything valuable from it that we can, and to minimize the amount that we have to truck 150 miles round trip to Carroll County landfill and backhaul empty trucks back. Next, I think there's one more on this slide. So just like the resource recovery plant, the new R3C is what we're calling it, Resource Recovery and Recycling Campus, will have a tipping fee. That fee will be charged to the haulers who bring the material to the facility on a per ton basis. They pass it along to their customers. That fee covers the costs related to the handling, transport, and disposal, ultimately, of that material at Carroll County landfill. So that's a fee that you as government entities do not see. That's passed on to the haulers who pass it on to their customers, just like we do now. It will be more, yes. Currently, our tipping fee at Resource Recovery is $75 a ton. The financial model that we have in place for the new facility indicates that the tipping fee will need to be in the neighborhood of $95.11 per ton in 2027 when we open the new facility. So that is correct. So we believe that even though the tipping fee is going to increase, there are some offsets, some advantages for the haulers. One is that the haulers spend a considerable amount of time right now driving to Boone and waiting in line at Boone and offloading material at Boone and then driving all the way back. And that is a labor intensive and equipment time intensive process, which will be avoided at the new facility. The reason why they have to go to Boone so often is because our existing facility is unreliable, and that's why we're building a new one. The new facility is intended to be, it will be designed such that even if the electricity in the building doesn't work, as long as we have a loader and trucks, we can put garbage in trucks and haul it to the landfill. So there should be, barring a significant catastrophe, there should be a consistent location for the haulers to go that is local rather than having to go to Boone and back, which is a considerable expense for them. So after 2027, the haulers will take nothing to Boone. We will take light C&D materials at our new facility. Heavy C&D materials will have to be hauled by the haulers to Carroll County landfill. There's a definition for heavy. So heavy things, you know, roofing materials, concrete blocks, whole loads of dimensional lumber, those types of things that are not easily handled will have to go directly to the landfill. Our facility is just not going to be set up to be able to handle the damage that that kind of material can cause to equipment and to the facility. So we'll handle things like, you know, drywall, scrap metal.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would add too is large contractors' volumes are probably not going to be able to come through the facility. But if you're doing something personally at your house, or if a resident's doing something at their house, they have some lumber, they have some drywall, that sort of stuff. We have not taken that in the past, but we will take that in the future. We will not take concrete because that's something that we're not just going to transfer it over to Carroll County. But that light C&D, yeah, it's hard to give a direct definition of it, and we'll do our best to make sure we have that defined as best we can, so everyone knows what that is before we open. But we do intend to take some of that.
If you just clarify that, you said that the facility doesn't operate at times, it's the boilers. We basically we're burning all the trash.
Yeah.
You may just explain that, because there's a symbiotic relationship in that, and because of the age of the boilers, the condition, and burning so much plastic, and the fact that's having them is on the tubes, that's really driving part of this project as well. And when you say 2027, is it the end of 2027, or is it, when is that too?
So whenever we say 2027 in here, we mean July 1 of 2027, perhaps slightly earlier. We will aim for, correct. We're working to identify whether we can take it elsewhere prior to that time, just so that we don't, so that we have a place to take it and don't put so much trash on Boone that they kick us out, essentially. So July 1 of 2027 is the date that we're talking about when we say 2027. So to the first question, one of the challenges with the system that we have is that refuse-derived fuel, which is the fluffy small bits that are the result of all of the processing that we then burn in the power plant boilers, that material is extremely difficult to store. It makes it a real challenge when we have surges, when we have difference in timing between when the boilers are operating and when garbage is being received. We can't store it for long periods of time and then feed it back out. We receive 200 tons of garbage per day, and we can store about 400 tons on the tipping floor. That's 2 days worth. We can store another 400 or 500 tons of RDF in a bin that's intended to be to serve as surge capacity. What that means is that we can pretty much only handle about a week of time, where if the boilers aren't operating to dispose of the RDF, then we have more garbage than we can fit in the building. When we have boiler tube outages, which tends to be the product of the unreliability, it takes 2 days to cool down a boiler. It takes another 2 to 3 days to find the leak, patch it, weld what we need to weld, another day to put a fire back in it and get it heated back up to the point where it can start combusting garbage again. So at minimum, it's maybe a 4-day process. Typically, it's about a week. Boiler tube outages occur because there are, even though we have installed millions of dollars worth of specialty tubing in the power plant that are designed for a refuse boiler, there are still extremely challenging conditions in the boiler. The composition of plastics in the waste stream over time has increased. That, combined with the natural gas that's burned in the boilers now, as compared to coal, which was burned in the boilers 15 years ago and earlier, causes an environment that is very acidic, and it just chews through the metal in the boiler tubes. A boiler tube that's untreated lasts maybe 9 months in the power plant, and we have hundreds of miles of boiler tube in the power plant boilers.
And so someone might ask, well, why wasn't this happening before? When we were burning coal,
Yeah.
it deposited ash on the tube and created this barrier between burning product and the metal.
Yeah.
So once we converted to natural gas, what happened?
Yeah, so to an extent, it did occur even 20 years ago. We would have outages related to boiler tube failures, and we would have to replace the tubes with more substantial tubes that could handle that corrosive environment. However, when we operated the power plant on coal, the coal has some absorbing properties to it. It absorbs moisture, and it also produces an ash that then coats the outside of the boiler tubes and protects it against corrosion. We could no longer burn coal in the power plant as a result of changes in environmental regulations. We burn natural gas now. Natural gas, one, doesn't make ash, and two, has a lot of moisture in it. And so those things in combination with the significant volume of plastics that we see compared to years and years ago create an environment in the boilers that cause a lot of reliability problems.
I think we all understand. I think it was a good, Chairman Fallon, good decision to not keep that going. So I don't think anybody's questioning that. I have a question. So what was this energy used for?
The energy?
Yeah.
So the power plant serves, well, it serves the electric customers of the city of Ames.
$10.50 per person, my garbage, Slater's garbage, Kevin's garbage, Kelly's garbage is going there to service Ames. Is that correct or not correct?
I would not characterize it that way whatsoever. So the $10.50 goes to the resource recovery utility. That's a separate enterprise from our electric utility. The electric utility buys the fuel from resource recovery, pays $30.31 a ton for the RDF that's produced by the resource recovery facility to burn it as a fuel. The garbage that, no, the garbage that goes into the power plant costs the power plant far more in expenses than it is worth.
Let's keep moving forward.
I didn't make the decision in
We're getting caught
1975.
in a back and forth and something we don't need to. Let's just keep moving forward, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with Mark. I think we need to, the purpose of the meeting is to say, where are we going from here?
Sure.
Yeah.
Read the next
So we've been considering some changes to this system for at least the last 5 years. I know I personally have been involved in a lot of studies, even going back 15 years related to addressing some of the reliability challenges that we have. Unfortunately, we haven't had a silver bullet that has been able to identify a way that we can continue doing waste to energy. We had a lengthy study in 2020. So beginning in 2022, 2024, we started to notify the partner communities through the annual report, the letter that comes with that report about the possibility of some changes. We issued a letter in July of 2024 explaining some of those specifics in more detail and introducing the concept of the campus that we were considering moving towards. In October of last year, we had a presentation at the Story County EMA meeting. In February this year, we sent a letter to the partners again, indicating that we would be coming to you with revised 2080 agreements. And then you received those in October 2025 here with the proposed language for an extension of the 2080 agreements. I'm going to turn it over to Justin.
Thank you, Brian. So I'll go through real briefly what this facility is going to look like and how we're going to process materials there. So if you're familiar with Ames and where the existing resource recovery plant is, that's kind of the reddish orange rectangle there, and about a mile away along Friel Drive is our new resource recovery and recycling campus. The city purchased some property down there in early 2025. So we have the property secured right now, and we're going through some design development on the project as we speak. The next slide. So as Brian had mentioned before, we're anticipate opening July 2027, and we're pushing to be open sooner than that if possible. There are a lot of things that need to come together as we continue to work through that. We're going to accept all solid waste there, as we mentioned, including light C&D loads. We're also going to look at recyclables, which we'll talk about later amongst the community. We're going to accept recycling at this facility, which will then be put together in a trailer and taken to a material recovery facility for final disposition. And we're also going to look at yard waste at this facility too. We did not do yard waste at the existing resource recovery plant, but that was on a separate site, but we plan to do all this at the same location there in Ames. As Brian has said earlier, we're going to process the waste. It's something that we're good at. It's something we've done for 50 years. We're removing the recyclable metals, the ferrous and non-ferrous metals. That it's actually a resource to us. That way we don't haul that additional tonnage to Carroll and we don't pay tipping fees on that material. It's actually a recoverable resource for us. The current estimate is about $16.8 million to construct the facility. And as Brian mentioned earlier, the tipping fee increase from 75 to a little bit over $95 a ton is what our financial modeling says right now. We are currently at about 60% design plans. And so with that, we anticipate a bidding environment sometime in early 2026. And we'll obviously have final numbers around that time to know what the actual construction cost will be. I think it's important to point out, there's a kind of on the side of the slide there, what average tipping fees are for transfer stations in the state of Iowa. They're as high as $160 a ton, but they average around $75 a ton. So we realize what we're looking at is more than that, but this is the number that we need to make sure that we make the utility whole. Per capita fees the same way. They average between as high as $51, and they average around $21. Some places don't charge a per capita fee. In this whole financial model, we're not proposing to change the per capita fee at all. We propose it to remain at $10.50 as it has in the past. Get the next slide, please. This graph here just kind of shows what the tipping fee has looked like historically, going back to 1994, when the current 2080 agreement, or certainly the previous 2080 agreement was put in place. You can see there's been a long period of time in the 2000s when the tipping fee was flat. And then you see some increases here in the recent past decade. The per capita fee has gone up and down throughout that time, but it stayed relatively flat over that period of time, around $9 to $10 as well. So this is an overview of the proposed site. North is to the left-hand side of the screen. So Friel Drive will run along the bottom screen there. There's a scale house that the haulers will come in. The transfer station itself is centered in the middle. I see I didn't have a little arrow on that customer convenience area, but it's just to the upper right of that. You can see some little rectangles put out. That customer convenience area, that's where you would bring your recycling. If an individual wants to drop off their cardboard, wants to drop off their glass, wants to drop off paper. We currently have that at our existing resource recovery plant, and we will have those available at the new facility as well. There's education and offices in this. You know, a big thing that we do at the current resource recovery facility is education. We have tours almost weekly of that facility, even now 50 years later after it's built. We plan to continue that. There's a lot of interest in it throughout the community of Ames and also throughout Story County. A lot of schools, a lot of places bring tour groups to that place to really show off what we do. And that's important to us because we were cutting edge 50 years ago, and we realized that we want to try to be cutting edge going into the future. So still pulling out those recyclable metals, doing things that other people aren't doing, and keeping our costs down because of that. Can I get the next slide there? So there's a couple arrows drawn in here. They kind of go into each other, but I really just wanted to highlight what it looks like for individual users of this facility. In red, you can see on the lower left-hand side, this would be a commercial hauler, basically a garbage hauler that you have out of your community, would come across the scale, go into the transfer facility and make a loop. They would offload their MSW onto the tipping floor, come back out, go across the scale, and then be done with the facility. The orange line that you see that kind of goes off to the center of the screen, that's what we call our residential car line. So if you brought in some material yourself in a pickup or a car and you wanted to get rid of the waste that way, we actually bring you off the tipping floor. We will accept solid waste in this customer convenience area as well as recycling. So we have that away from the commercial haulers to avoid that traffic so we don't have the big trucks going around, people getting in and out of their vehicles. It's a safety issue and something that I think is very well thought out so we can ensure we keep people safe through the facility. The blue line is kind of hard to see on the lower right-hand side. It goes up the right-hand side and it comes across through the transfer station. That's where we're going to be having the transfer trucks that will come through. They will take the waste. We expect 8 to 9 trucks per day will go to Carroll County. We're looking at options to see how can we compress this waste as much as possible to ensure we get as much into a truck as possible and lower those costs of us hauling it to Carroll County. So they go through the facility and come back out. As Brian had mentioned, we're designing this facility with some pretty heavy duty shredding and equipment and whatnot in it, but we're also designing it so that way, if we have a power outage, if we have issues, we can still accept waste and we can still move it along through the process through Carroll County mechanically, as long as we have a loader and trucks to do it. So that's something that we've planned into this to ensure that even in those challenging times, we can still continue to service the waste that comes into the facility. The last thing goes to the very top. It's our yard waste. This is where we'll take yard waste from the city and also member communities that are in that. We can drop yard waste off there. It'll be processed. Currently, there's not room to really store a lot of it, and it's kind of one of our challenges on this site. Though it is bigger than our current footprint, we would look at moving that off-site, grinding it, and making mulch and having that go away probably a couple times a year as it gets through there. So that's a real quick overview of what's going on that site. Are there any specific questions about that I can answer before we move a little bit farther?
5 days a week, 6 days a week.
Likely still be 6 days a week. I think we would keep roughly the same hours we have right now. We may have to look internally of how we flex that to ensure that we take advantage of the hours Carroll County is open with their landfill. So we haven't quite landed on that yet, but I would say you probably wouldn't see any lower level of service than you have right now.
Can I just remind everybody to make sure that you pull a microphone close to you, because we have a lot of people on Zoom who can't hear when a question is asked.
Thank you.
You might have to turn it on.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll continue with the presentation here. Oh, sorry.
Do you intend to run your own trucks or do you contract? What's the story there?
Yeah, so you're asking if we intend to run our own trucks or contract for that. So we intend to have our own city-owned trucks. We will have those, our own fleet that will take care of that. We will haul the material to Carroll County and own the trailers and own the trucks as well. Okay.
All right. So we talked a little bit at the beginning about how our 2080 agreements function. We have 2080 agreements in place with all the communities that are represented here tonight. Those agreements are good through 2034. What we have asked the communities to do is approve revised agreements that extend for 20 years beyond the year 2027 when the new facility opens. So they go through 2047. The revised agreements contain 3 changes primarily from what the existing agreements have. One is that they have a longer end date. 2 is that they eliminate the references to us generating refuse-derived fuel, because that will be, there's an equation that's in the Resource Recovery 2080 agreements. That number is going to be 0. We will produce 0 refuse-derived fuel. So it just cleans that up. And then the third modification is that it more clearly emphasizes what we all are obligated to do under state law anyway, which is to implement waste reduction and landfill diversion type measures. What that looks like, we are not going to dictate to any of the communities. We have an idea of what we plan to do in Ames, and we're going to share a little bit about that with you. But we recognize that different communities have different needs and resources and may want to pursue that differently. So the reason for the 20-year extension to the 2080 agreements is because that matches the term of the debt that we anticipate taking on for the new facility. We would just like to know who's in or out for the duration of that term of the debt. As we, because right now we handle a lot of our landfill avoidance obligations through waste to energy, and that will be going away. We will need to do different things to avoid putting material in the ground at the landfill. So with our new system, of that $95 tipping fee, about $30 of that is the cost to dispose of the material ultimately in the Carroll County landfill. Another $30 or more is the amount that it costs us to truck the material from the new R3C to the Carroll County landfill. The cost to truck recyclable materials to a recycler and have it tipped at a recycler and recycled is far less than what it will be to take that same amount of material and bury it in the ground at the landfill in Carroll County. In order to take advantage of that, we in Ames are considering curbside recycling. The city council authorized us last night to prepare an RFP for a single hauler to provide that service for residential customers. We are working on putting together the RFP. We think that there's a lot of interest from the local haulers in providing that kind of a service. It's our intent to get that service going as soon as July of 2026. As we put together that RFP, we are also including, as the respondents provide us with their pricing information to service Ames, we are also asking them to provide pricing for each of the individual communities that are participants in our 2080 system. The communities would not be obligated to utilize that contract at all, but it would be an option if each of you in your own individual communities looks at the terms of our agreement that we plan to have and looks at the pricing that's offered by our contractor. You can elect to jump onto that contract. You don't have to. You could elect to initiate your own RFP. You could elect to handle recycling and diversion in some other manner entirely. But we wanted to at least, while we're taking this opportunity to invest the time in putting together an RFP, we wanted to at least offer an opportunity to get pricing information. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. If we choose to tag along, how would the customers be billed?
We'll have to figure that out, how you are going to collect the money in order to pay for the service.
Would it be possible for the customer to pay the recycler or pay the hauler directly?
I'm sure we could work that out, yeah. Well,
Okay.
yeah,
And you're going to, the way you're doing it in Ames, everybody's going to get a cart,
that's correct.
right? So they're going to be charged through your billing system.
Correct.
Okay.
So does this quote include curbside?
It'll be both.
Can you restate the question?
So the question was, does it include curbside recycling as an option for all the partners or a drop-off center? We plan to get pricing for both. So it would be curbside, every other week kind of service in a 96-gallon cart, or in a community where maybe that doesn't make sense. Then we'll get pricing for a hauler to place a roll-off container somewhere in the community where people can go and drop off their recyclables, and that hauler can then service that container, bring it to us and at the new facility on a regular basis.
Are you going to try to get all of those?
It's not working.
How about you repeat the question? These aren't working. Are you going to put all those options in your RFP?
So the question was, are we going to put all those options in the RFP? And the answer is yes.
Don't give this.
I think we need to give up on that.
So those are a couple of the approaches potentially that could be taken in the various communities. What I want to emphasize is that again, we don't want to dictate to the other communities what the approach is for how you handle waste diversion and recycling. If there is a different approach that you want to consider, we're happy as city staff to help consult about how that might work. We just have to be able to demonstrate to the DNR that we are all working on waste diversion efforts. I think we're shooting for maybe in a month or so. We got to finalize some things with it. Couple of weeks, we'll send it out.
Do you have a list of what the definition of recyclables is?
Yeah, so for us, in Ames, we're considering recyclables to be mixed paper, cardboard, metal, glass, container glass, that is, and number 1 and number 2 plastics. Generally, those are plastic containers with a screw top lid. I'm sorry? Not plastic bags. Those are so the reason why we are aiming for that list of 5 or 6 different commodities and no more is that is the most universally recyclable set of commodities that we can then market to various recycling endpoints. So when we have all that stuff commingled together, we can take that to several different locations and contract with different firms to recycle it. There may be one endpoint that takes more items, but if we start down the road of working with that recycler and then end up not working with that recycler in the future, then we've got a bunch of public information out there that says certain things are recyclable that aren't going to be accepted at the new recycler. So we're trying to pick the most universally recyclable set of materials.
So when will you have like the pricing so cities can decide whether they want to go with the 28E? Because right now, all the information you're giving, like for instance, the recyclable, there's not a price on that. The only price you've given us is $10.50 per person. So to sign this, I know the signing is the money we're gonna give you, but what does that include and what's the cost?
The question was, when do you think you'll know what
So-
the cost will be?
On the recycling side, our RFP will know pretty early in the calendar year. We'll know in January, I would say. Yeah.
That is what allows cities to dump it and take over care. That's a big thing. The
Yes.
Second aspect is the recycling, and that's through the DNR waste.
Yes. So whatever the costs are for the curbside recycling or for drop-offs or for whatever other recycling initiatives are accomplished in the communities, that's going to be accounted for as a separate cost from the per capita fee. The per capita fee is not for that service.
So so can an entity become a member or sign the 28E, pay you the per capita of $10.50, which means their hauler can use your tipping floor and not take part in the recycling?
They would just have to demonstrate to us how they are diverting waste from the landfill.
In other words, you don't want a mixture.
We just have to, every year, we have to tell DNR, here's what we have done to get waste out of the landfill. And that, it could be recycling, it could be community outreach, it could be rummage rampage, those kinds of events that we do. We are going to need to see how each community is addressing that issue, how they intend to get materials diverted from the landfill, whether that's recycling or whether that's some other initiative, curbside, drop off, what have you. We have to show what we've done and how we plan to improve it in the next fiscal year. That's what we're obligated to show to DNR.
That's in Iowa code.
That's the law, yes.
Law.
I might add to that too, that the DNR also charges us a per ton fee. That per ton fee varies based upon how much diversion you show as a community. So the tipping fees being what they are, if we do not show any diversion, the DNR then charges us more, which affects how much it costs us to dispose of the waste. So it is tied into a financial incentive that way as well.
Areas, counties or regions, do they go at it on the recycling? The garbage is separate, like Jordan said, on the recycling. Do they all do it all this differently like this, or do they all just sort of coordinate and agree together?
There's kind of two ways that it's done. There's the comprehensive planning area that we've talked about here, which is what we've currently been in, which is, kind of recycling and garbage is handled separately. And then there's another one called an environmental management system, which is what Carroll County is. And in the environmental management system, it's a much more holistic look at your waste stream. So they're not only looking at garbage and recycling together, but what other methods are you doing? They're going to make you show that you're doing education, and they're going to require that you demonstrate that you're doing educational programs as well. So that's done a little bit differently in environmental management system, which is what we're going into. So if we can include recycling with it, we're going to be able to demonstrate even incrementally that we are making progress towards the DNR's goals, which are not really stated like you have to meet a certain percentage, but they need to see that you are building upon that annually. Every fiscal year, you're showing more is being diverted and more is being educated, things like that. I don't know if I answered that or not, Mark. Was that
Really?
okay?
That's
Apologize.
okay.
I don't think there's,
There's,
there's not a universal model, I don't think.
So I guess my concern is kind of that you're going to putting out an RFP in a couple weeks. Every time I talk about this, I see how much more complicated it's going to be, and I learn more about it. And I'm thinking that one RFP for the recycling going to do it? Because you're kind of guessing right now at what things might work for various communities. And it just may be that there's something else that's going to work better for Kelly or for Gilbert or, wherever. Is there going to be some time and some flexibility to kind of negotiate some of this stuff?
So the purpose of asking for pricing from our recycling RFP for all of the other communities in the county is to simply give you and each of your individual communities an option. And you can take that option or you can choose a different option. It doesn't matter much to us as long as you pick some option to meet your obligations for recycling and waste diversion. So we don't have to take pricing for everybody else in the county if it's not what you want. I don't want to impose, but we felt like it would be something, we're doing a lot of the legwork to get this RFP put together to begin with. And I don't want to put that burden on everybody individually in the county. So we're happy to do it, but it's not an obligation. You don't have to choose to take that option.
Well, I think it's good that you're doing it because I can't see us all having the expertise that you have to do it. And I'm just concerned if we're giving you enough information, or if we can give you enough ideas to get the information that's going to be helpful. That's where I'm kind of concerned and think this is kind of like the RFP, maybe kind of a phase one. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the first, it's the first try at seeing what kind of potential costs and scope is out there. And if you look at the results of that and say, boy, that's going to be too costly for our residents to stomach, or that's going to provide a service that doesn't do what our residents are going to expect in our particular community, then come and meet with us and we will talk through what kind of different options there might be. Happy to do that.
Thank you.
I just want to say for people in the southern part of Story County, our city contacted Metro down in Metroville, and you can get recycling containers for free. They will come, they will deposit in your community, come and pick it up. Because when we were looking at our options, that's one thing they said they could do. So Slater, that might be something you might want to look at if you're thinking about it. So, and I don't know how it's free through them, but.
That's
they-
great. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's material that's not going to the landfills. That's great.
And how's the accountability part? Like, I mean, let's say some cities don't do it. There's no repercussion for them. Is there in a way? Because you're not gonna know that.
I would think,
You would hope they would do it.
yeah, there's.
Too many
um,
variables.
Well, so in this world of landfilling and recycling, we have these rules that say you've got to take this here. You can't take, if you live here, you can't take your garbage over there. It happens all the time, to a certain degree. But as long as most everybody is doing the right thing and the thing that they say they are going to do, then we're going to be fine. I'm not too worried about a couple of tons going to the wrong place. I'm worried about 52,000 tons going to the right place.
When do you need to know about the cities committing to this?
So we have asked for an indication as to whether you're supportive of the 2080 for the extension for 20 years by January, the end of January, just so we can understand what impacts that might have on the financing of the new facility.
And I'm sorry, when are you gonna have the proposals back? I was talking to somebody I didn't hear.
The curbside recycling proposals will probably be around that same time.
Okay, so you could give us some time to look at that and decide if we wanted to join in.
Sure.
Without knowing the numbers, how do we make the decision?
Yeah, no, the way the proposals will work for the curbside recycling is that pricing will be good throughout the entirety of our contract. We intend to probably have a 5-year contract or longer for the curbside recycling. We'll have pricing every year for that with an adjustment factor for fuel for the hauler. The hauler is going to give us 5 years worth of pricing for each of the individual communities as well. So if you're not going to be obligated to decide whether you want to jump onto that curbside recycling contract. You don't have to decide that as soon as we get the pricing back. You could decide that anytime during the 5-year period.
Or we could figure out our own recycling.
Sure.
Anytime during that.
Absolutely.
Okay, there's a question in the chat here from Dale Higgins. He says, I'm curious if Ames will release current 2080 agreements that accept a community not join the 2080 extension. For instance, we're considering curbside in the city of Maxwell and considering moving trash dump to Marshall County.
Yeah, so the way the existing 2080 agreements work, if one of the other communities wants to move to a different planning area, they're more than welcome to. All they have to do is we have to mutually agree, Ames and that community have to approve a cancellation of the 2080 agreement.
And who's Ames?
The Ames City Council.
The Collins and Colo both are doing that now. Is that right?
Correct. They didn't renew in 2014, if I remember right.
So the comprehensive planning area is whoever joins the 2080. Is that right?
It's whoever joins the 2080 plus Boone County plus Jefferson County.
Yeah,
Okay.
there are a few counties, a few communities in, I believe, Jefferson County that go to Boone County's landfill as well. We'd have to look at that, how that works in the comprehensive planning area. It's renewed every year annually. We have to go through a report every 5 years. We have to redo a complete comprehensive plan. So we'd have to look at how it affects. If a community goes out, they would probably be out of the central Iowa solid waste planning area. and they would join whatever new planning area they moved into.
Right. So like Colo and Collins, like I said before, are part of the Marshall County
Right.
plan. I think Jefferson is part of Dallas County because they evidently haul theirs to Dallas County. And then the other communities are part of the Central Iowa planning.
Yeah.
So when this gets redone, whatever you do, or whichever cities go along with this 28E, they will no longer be part of the Central Iowa. They'll be
Right.
part of the Western Iowa, right, with Carroll County. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, there's a webpage on DNR's website
Mhm.
for comprehensive planning, and they have a map, an interactive map where you could see all of the different communities and who's in what planning area and
Right.
who's in what other planning area.
Right, and then so cities that don't use the same option, I don't forget what you called it, but a tag-along option for recycling will be responsible to have their own plan approved by the DNR for how there's being a reduction in the waste stream.
No. So I want to separate the planning areas for solid waste, right? So you'd still be in the same planning area with Ames. You would just need to help us quantify how your community is reducing landfilling. And we would then incorporate that information into the reports that we have to file on your behalf to the DNR.
But I'm still unclear so you'll be a separate entity from the Central Iowa Solid Waste Plan.
We're going to be joining.
You're going to be part of the
West
Western.
Iowa. Yeah,
So your plan will be submitted through that,
correct.
that planning entity, then to the DNR.
Yes.
And so as it is now, the Colo and Collins, evidently theirs are submitted and proven through Marshall County and then submitted to the DNR.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Your recycling material would all
Yep.
be mixed together in this one container, and you're gonna have to sort that again?
So, yeah, so the question is about whether the recyclable material is going to be mixed together and then separated back out again. So for the curbside recycling, that'll be commingled in one container, and it will come to our facility and we will consolidate it into a larger truck. It will stay commingled and then sent down to either Shupan Recycling or Metro Waste Authority, depending on who we contract with. They have equipment that is better able to separate out all of the different individual components. What we will accept is in that, Crystal, can you go a couple of slides back? We will have a drop-off area outside the facility where if people have if they have already gone through the effort of separating out their glass or separating out their metal or cardboard, yeah, they can put it in those separate containers. We'll gladly accept all that kind of material for free because we can get a better price for that material. When it's commingled, we don't get as good of a price. So if somebody's going through, their ball jar collection and wants to get rid of it, and they bring it to resource recovery, we'll take it all for free. If somebody is going through their machine shed and has a whole bunch of mixed paper and commingled, truckloads worth of stuff, and they bring it to the resource recovery plant, we will probably charge them a fee for all that commingled material because it will cost us more to dispose of it.
I think what Brian's pointing out, in the middle of the screen there, I didn't have it's just to the upper right of that word customer. You can kind of see a big rectangle with some smaller rectangles inside of it. That's where that separated recycling would be. So you bring your cardboard, you bring your glass. If you have metals, you can bring them and put them in there. That's where we would accept that.
Like you do now?
Correct, like we do now.
Those vehicles that are going to be doing recycling, then do they go across the scale?
Yes.
And then they have to recycle back past the scale after recycling, or how does that?
No, on the interior of the facility, and we can show you on the drawings that we brought too.
So you still don't have there's no accountability for amount of reduction.
No, all the commingled material that's being picked up curbside, that's gonna go over the scale And we have a corner of the building on the interior where that stuff will be deposited. So we'll separate that out from all the other garbage and not mix them. And then we will consolidate it into, a truck and then haul it off to the recycler. So we will account for all of that.
Maybe I missed it and I apologize. How long will Carroll County accept our refuse hauling this over? In other words, how long is this plant going to be viable to deliver it there? And I assume that it was just thought through on starting another sanitary landfill. Maybe that's a non-starter, but
Yeah. So our agreement with Carroll County Landfill goes for a minimum of 20 years. Carroll County Landfill has a considerable amount of space, which is very nice. Some of it doesn't come available until around 2027, so they're not able to take our waste early. But they've committed that 20 years they will be able to plan for. When we started having initial discussions about what are we going to do when we're no longer on waste to energy, we did talk through the possibility of siting a new landfill, but that's a very challenging prospect. It takes a lot of time. It takes 5 to 7 years to get it sited, get the property rights for it, get it cited and approved by DNR, to actually move all the dirt, to get it lined. It's a big undertaking and it takes a long time, in addition to a variety of political hurdles. So we just determined we don't have that kind of time, and we knew that we needed to go explore landfill partners. We did seek out a variety of other landfill partners that are far closer in the neighborhood compared to Carroll, but Carroll County Landfill is the closest landfill that will accept the volume of waste that we have.
the big picture, 20 years isn't a long time. And at 20 years, we've got to come up with another location or continue the agreement with Carroll.
Yes.
Is part of the problem Iowa State, because I noticed the tonnies you get from them, would it make a difference if Iowa State was a part of, to go to another landfill, or it doesn't really make any difference?
The question is about, would it make a difference if Iowa State was in or out of the system, going to a different landfill? I don't think it would make much of a difference. They divert a pretty considerable amount of the material, both on the recycling side and then also on the food waste side and composting. So the stuff that they send us is pretty, it's a pretty small portion of their overall waste footprint. I don't think it would make much of a difference. They do pay us, so they don't pay per capita, and as a result, they pay a significantly higher tipping fee in order to deposit their waste. They actually pay a share of the overall cost of the facility, and we anticipate that'll continue.
So if a community would kind of want to brainstorm with you about how they could do the recycling, what might fit in, with your RFP, with the hauler, how it might be, can they get hold of either one of you?
Yeah, they're welcome to get a hold of me, Justin, or Nolan Sagan. Nolan's not here tonight, so I'm going to volunteer him. He is the City of Ames Sustainability Coordinator, and he'll be taking the lead on our recycling RFP and contracts. He's also got a good handle on grant opportunities that are available through the state, and other financial opportunities. He would be a good person to coordinate with, but any of us would be happy to chat about it.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
I would just like to say, it seems to me, I mean, when you look at the DNR map, the planning areas are really large areas, and some of them are just a county-wide. This seems to me like this issue should be a county issue. Have you as supervisors or has the county looked at planning a landfill? I mean, that's the long-term solution to this problem.
We've not looked at it yet. Every time I talk to somebody about landfill, they say there's a lot of DNR regulations. I look at the price of land in Story County, and it would take a very long time. it's something we could look at, but, it's not something that's going to be here during the time that we need to get something done.
Also, this was a countywide solution. We were
Mhm.
partnering and have been partnering with the city of Ames, who 50 years ago, this was brand new cutting edge technology. And so it was an opportunity for the county to partner and save money for the whole county and not have to have a new landfill.
From my understanding, the DNR. They just want to utilize the existing. But
Although that's a pretty unrealistic goal.
Mhm.
All landfills are gonna fill up.
Are there any other questions? Any last comments? Anything you'd like to say? I think you've given us a lot of information, but I say, every time I think about this, I think of another question. How would we do this? How would we do that? And I know for the unincorporated areas, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm just really not sure how the best way is to do recycling or to try to do that. But, and that's why I'd like to, talk with you a little bit more about it.
Sure.
So,
My
Yeah,
biggest
yeah.
concern is this 20 years down the road. What are we gonna do? I mean, I don't, I visited with some folks over in Marshall County and they've got a landfill that's viable for 60 years still. However, 60 years isn't that far away either. Your point, this is a bigger issue that we're gonna solve tonight, but we're getting into politics quickly. So just my thought.
I think you both make really good points. And I think in the next few years, there should be a task force. There should be a countywide task force made up of county community leaders that are working on solving this question to make sure in 20 years, we know ahead of time what we're doing. Because you're right, 20 years isn't very long. And hopefully Story County is going to continue to grow, but then potentially so will our waste. So I think, getting this figured out now so we can transition from Boone. And, in the next couple of years, we need to be looking at real solutions and hopefully we'll land somewhere that makes sense. Would you like to be on that task force?
I'll be on it.
Fantastic. Want to be on that task force? No.
do you have any last words or anything else you'd like to say?
No, I've said enough.
Thank you.
I want to thank
for your
you.
time.
Thanks so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. I'm sure several people will be getting in touch with you.